Hi everyone, welcome to On the Other Hand. I'm Ariane Zurcher, and in this video I'm showing how I hand stitch and ruch ribbon, silk sari strips, and pieces of fabric to create all kinds of different texture depending on how you stitch the material and how far apart your stitches are. Can change, and it's a really cool technique, and I'll show you at the end how I'm incorporating it into my latest sphere of my Suspended World series. I'll turn you around and we'll get started. Let's do some ruching. I have a whole assortment of stuff. So I've got a grosgrain ribbon from Painters. I've got this ribbon that I got in Paris. I've got some silk sari strips. I've got some fabric that's just cut in a sort of wedge. It doesn't really matter what you use for the ruching. It's not going to show. I'll use this gold thread just because it's on a needle and I've got it. And I'll do it on this so you can see what I'm talking about. You're going to want a chenille needle. It's going to fit your thread size. And let's just do really basic. So I'm just going to do a running stitch down the center. And you can do, two of these on either side, and I'll show you what that looks like compared to a center strip. It doesn't make that big of a difference, but I'll show you. And then you're just going to pull it, right? Just gathered. And there it is. Okay. So now, I'm just going to do 2 running stitches along this edge as opposed to the center. And then I'll show you a couple of other ways you can do this. Okay, so there's how it looks, right? Just on one edge, it kind of gives you that little ruffle. So you can change where you place your running stitch, and it's going to change how it looks. Okay. I want to leave a little tail just so I have something to hold on to. To pull it. All right. And now I'll do the other edge. It's like little railroad tracks. Doesn't matter. The longer the stitch, the farther apart you make your running stitch, like a basting stitch, right? The gathering will be different. You want it really, really tight little gathers, then of course you're going to want to do smaller running stitch. Okay, so now we're going to pull them both. And you're going to get a kind of accordion, right? Remember what it looked like when I just did the edge? It kind of fanned around. You can totally play with this. All right, so let's leave this one here. This is going down the center. And this is one on either side. The only reason to worry about the color of your thread is if you want it to not be so tight. You want it to be a little looser, in which case the thread might show. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Okay, and now I'm going to do just one side, so just for comparison's sake. But I'm going to keep these a little maybe farther apart. Okay, so there we have a little ruffle, right? So each one is a little different. So I've got my little ruffle, I've got my little middle, and then this one that's more like a accordion. Okay, so now we can do, this is a kind of diagonal, right? And here's the thing, I've heard people say it needs to be at a 45-degree angle, it needs to be this. I don't know, I don't worry about it. I just think of zigzag, and it's going to give you a different effect. And I'll show you how it changes depending on how tightly, so if you make a wider zigzag, it's going to be different than one that is tighter. I'm trying to do this one pretty wide. Okay, so let's tighten this. And do you see how it gets kind of loopy? So it's not exactly like this, right? It's different. And it's not exactly like this, and it's not like that. And this is the cool thing about ruching, is that you can play with the way you stitch whatever it is you're stitching, whether it's a piece of material or a ribbon. Okay, so this one I'm going to do more a tighter zigzag. Okay, so let's see what happens. And there's what it looks like. So it's a cool, it doesn't have to be a ribbon. It can be a strip of fabric. It can be cut on the bias. It doesn't have to be cut on the bias. So instead of doing little peaks, I'm just going to do little waves. So it's not going to have a peak as much as it's going to have more of a rounded wave shape. So think rounded waves, rounded, foothills, whatever, not peaks, but rounded. Right? So it's looking like that. And so we get this other sort of look, right? So here are my peaks, and here are waves. It's a subtle difference, honestly. I can do it again on this so you can compare with the exact same material. So I'm doing my waves on this. Okay, let's pull that. So it's a little more floppy, right? It's just, but it's not a big difference. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more, which is to do a very wide zigzag. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's really, really far apart. And here we go. And it's a very subtle difference, right? You're not getting the tight little loops here, but, so you can play with it. And kind of look and see what you like best and what kind of thing you're looking for, and are you going to do like a whole thing and you're going to turn this, turn it around into a circle, or, it all depends on what you want to do with it. Okay, so I wanted to show, I'm going to show you the Sari fabric. I'm making this pretty. It's not really, really far apart, but it's not super extreme, the little peaks either. And remember how tight your running stitch is will also change it a little bit. Okay, let's pull it and see what happens. And there it is. Okay, I'm going to show you how I've used ruching and in different places. On my sphere, I cut out a whole thing that I had done on stems, and I'll post that video in the upper right corner. But you can see here that this is done in a zigzag. But you can also attach fabric to different places on here and just create a little, it just creates a little texture, and it can be kind of cool. So I may actually attach this somewhere, I'm not sure where, but so you can just make little ones and put them places. I'm doing one more of the fabric, and I did it in some pretty tight peaks. You can kind of see, not too tight, but, and what I'm thinking is of putting, kind of like this one better, honestly. I may use this one instead. This is a bit wide, but I'll see what I think. So I made this with really, pretty aggressive peaks here, and I'm just gonna pull it, and I kept my running stitch fairly small, and there it is. And I'm going to apply this to my sphere. I kind of like the idea, I have a little bit of this fabric here, and I kind of like the idea of putting this in the vicinity of, but also in here somewhere. And so I'm thinking that what I'll do is stitch it down right here. And I can just tack it down in a couple places. And it kind of has a look like, almost like a butterfly. And I'm also tacking it down so that this part is really closer together and the upper part will be a bit farther apart. I want to tuck this tail under so that it doesn't show or poke out. And then I'm just going to tack it down a couple of places in the folds up above. So there it is. I can do stitches in here if I want, but I'm going to leave it alone. I could put beads, I could, you can dress it up. But there it is on my sphere. I could add a cluster of these as well. But I think I like it just by itself. So I hope this gave you some ideas for adding texture to your own work, whether you're stitching with silk or sari silk, ribbon, or just scraps of fabric like this. Let me know in the comments how you might use ruching in your next project. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it.